All right, so this is Mother Bus, also known as Brittany Lott. She and her husband JD have been traveling the country in their modified school bus for the last 4 years, 3, 4 years, something like that. And they have, over the course of those years, gotten up to 7 children that
Oh,
are
no.
traveling with them. And of course, since they're moving so much, they're homeschooling.
But they're making the children in the bus is what's making it even worse.
Oh, oh
With
yeah,
all the other kids around.
that happens.
Oh,
So let's give you a little introductory into who is JD and Brittany. Some of this stuff I had to cut the audio for because it's copyrighted audio.
It's even worse without the audio.
somehow it is.
And the kids are in every single video. I did the most to edit around children on this one. It was not easy.
I'm sure they're like popping out of everywhere.
She loves the TikTok dances as much as Brittany does.
And they have the ad on the side of the bus. Oh god.
Wait, there was an ad on the side?
They have like their Instagram handle on the
Yes,
side.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even
correct.
see that. I was so focused on how excited she was to be dancing in the palm of his
Yep,
hand. Oh, gosh.
right there. And that's their social on everything. I'm pretty sure it's their Cash App as well. Because,
Of course
yes,
it would be.
they have asked people to give them money so they have gas to get around.
Oh
Wait,
my god.
I'm confused. They don't have jobs?
So, whenever they're asked about that, they will say they're entrepreneurs. At one time, they owned a small set of gym franchises and did relatively well for themselves. They had a huge house on a big acreage and everything, but they decided, we'll get into the lore on this one here a little later, but they decided that they needed to become a road family, and they were going to take their children on the road and give them opportunities they would not get living in a house with all the normal stuff. They decided to get on the road, and ever since then they have been very cagey about how they earn money. She absolutely does affiliate links, and oh, she started doing an MLM recently. And then he does something really sketchy called consulting. No one has said
Ooh.
exactly what kind of consulting. He goes around the country to consult at various businesses, and nobody has been able to figure this out for sure in writing, but it really sounds like he is into crypto.
Oh no.
I have a theory. I think feet pics come into play here.
Oh, absolutely. No, you hit the nail on the head.
Unless you find some weird niche thing that seems so strange. I don't know.
And it's
Yeah.
not the mom doing the feet pics either, it's the dad.
I'm a little offended as someone who has worked very hard to provide stability for my kids. They can have it and they just poo poo in the face of that and then do weird stuff on a bus.
It's that God honoring onlyfeet.com.
I live in a bus with my husband and our 7 children. Let's do a bus tour. Okay, shoes kept right here.
I do want to say it is not cheap to do this kind of shit.
No.
So I don't know where they're getting the money for it. To convert a bus, that is insanely expensive.
It is.
And I'm sure the upkeep on it, cars are expensive. To have a whole bus, that seems like it would be a lot. Only feet. I'm telling you, only feet.
So, fun fact, her husband was having a lot of respiratory issues after a few years of traveling, and they went to allergy and asthma specialists. They even went to a Eastern medicine practitioner, and basically they were told that because of the way they built the bus, her husband is allergic to the bus.
Oh my God. And they didn't move into a house immediately?
Nope.
None of these people do.
I guess I should be more shocked if they had moved into a house after getting that news.
We have swimsuits and diapers because I'm always ready for anything. And when you walk into our living room space, we have 2 long couches with 6 seatbelts attached. A fun thing, these slide out on both sides, and this can make into one big space for movie nights. Also underneath, you have tons of storage for winter gear, games, and a bunch of food goods on this side. Also a ton of power outlets for any of our electronics that we have. And my favorite part is our windows, because we stay at some really amazing places to review. Also, our bed drops from the ceiling. Part 3, where do I store all the clothes? I have really deep drawers, tons of hanging closet space. Our vitamins and cleaning supplies go in this one. This cabinet is going to be all of the things that make the bus actually run. We have a washer dryer combo unit. It's cheating. I put them in dirty, start it, they come out dry and ready to be put away. Our pocket door is great for bathroom privacy, because in here,
No, those aren't.
No, they're not.
Composting toilet, small sink, and the bunkhouse. Part 2, my kitchen. I feed a lot of people. So I have a deep freezer that slides in and out, a really deep sink, a hidden trash can, which is killer for my family. I share for littles, tons and tons of storage, 4-burner propane stove.
Now, I'd just like to comment that the amount of storage that they have in this bus is less than I have had in basically every single 1-bedroom apartment in the last decade. So I'm not really sure what she's talking about with all this storage.
I mean, she acts. I don't understand how you could fit one person in there. That makes me claustrophobic just thinking about it. But to have 9 people in a fucking bus, like seriously?
And I've also had one of those little combo washer dryers. They fit about 1/3 of a normal size load of laundry. So if she's doing laundry for 9 people, she's literally doing laundry every single day.
It has to be like they all have to wear the same clothes for a week, and I can't think of another way that would work. They all have to wear the same clothes for a week.
We're getting close to the bunkhouse.
Oven, a refrigerator, another little mini small freezer, and back here in the back, I've got a Berkey filter, and Chloe, our crested gecko, our baby, naps in the mom room.
And they have a pet.
It's bedtime. So when they go to bed, we turn their AC unit on, shut the door, turn off this light and our sliding door. I'll probably kick in some laundry. Hey, come check out our kids' bunkhouse.
Oh,
in the back of the
no.
bus, we have 6 bunk beds with each of our kids having their own custom favorite blankets and toys.
They all get their
Custom.
own blanket.
Custom, as in a different color.
I was about to say, bitch, don't say custom like that's something special. You went to Target and picked out 6 different colors.
I see no Paw Patrol. I see no Power Rangers. Like,
Well, that's not aesthetically pleasing.
It has to look like it would look nice on her little Pinterest board.
so we've got 6 bunks in here, right? Well, their kids range, now let's remember there's 7 of them now. They range in
I was about
age
to say.
from a little over, maybe? Yeah, I think a little over a year old. The oldest is 12, and they all go to bed at the exact same time. Door is closed, and they are not to come out until 7 o'clock in the morning.
God,
Christ.
that is so upsetting.
Yes.
They
This
also
is
have
the
personalized bags with all of their individual toys they can play with. Underneath the bunks, they have group toys like dinosaurs, books, blocks, art supplies, and all of our homeschool curriculums kept in here.
that is not a flex. That should not be able to hold the curriculum for 6 children.
She said it like, and
So-
I'm such a good homeschool mom, and it's like, oh no, lady, no, you're not. If you can fit all of that in there,
Each of my children have a bag for all of their toys. And then you just see like
Exactly.
a tiny ass backpack.
Dude, she has done TikToks of making her kids get rid of some of their favorite toys because she doesn't think that they use it enough and it's taking up too much space, so it needs to stay at grandma's.
Jesus Christ. No, I
so is
will.
grandma's like a home base for them? I'm assuming her family.
From Texas, generically, is their home base, of course.
Of course, these seem like Texas people. No offense to any Texas people that aren't these people, but
I will give her this. At least the children do somewhat have like a children's space of their own. Because half of like the RV moms that like I hate watch, they all like their kids always end up in like the living room.
Yeah.
But still, this is ridiculous. I'm trying not to be too picky because I don't think I could do better myself. But the space efficiency here is not as good as she thinks it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
well, and it's like, don't try to. If it was just her and her adult husband, that wanted to go and do this, that would be one thing. But I don't know, the putting the kids on the bus is the no-go for me.
Yeah. Uprooting the kids when you've got 5 kids and they're all involved in extracurricular activities, friends, church, etc., and you decide that you need to explore your wanderlust and jump on, kids.
Well,
No,
and
like,
it's just like these kids have no alone time. I think back to myself as a kid, and I would have gone absolutely insane if I didn't have some amount of time completely alone.
Absolutely. I completely agree. When I was in junior high school, I was very extroverted. I was involved in all the things. But that was only sustainable because when I was home, I could pretty much hole up in my room and read or do architectural stuff or listen to music or whatever. But like I had my own space that I could escape to, close the door, and pretend the world outside doesn't exist anymore.
And I feel like that's really important for kids. They need privacy. Like,
Especially a 12-year-old boy.
yes, and just I don't know. I have put rules in place in my house. I don't know that I knock before I go into my kids' bedrooms, and that's not something that's not a courtesy I was afforded.
like I did live in an RV for like a year and a half when I was like 15. I didn't have siblings with me, but the lack of privacy even there was like insane. Even though I did technically have my own room, it just had one of those like little sliding doors, like the one
Mm-hmm.
she just showed. That was what mine was like. And it wasn't intended to be a bedroom. It was supposed to be like a living space. So it had like a little pull-out couch, and like that basically became like my room. And I remember when we ended up finally getting a house, I was just kind of mind blown at what it was like to live in like a normal house again.
Oh
And
my
I pretty
gosh,
much like
yes.
I stopped using all shared living spaces pretty much. 'Cause it's still I still feel so weird, like just sitting in my living room to this day because of it.
Right?
I had no privacy and I had like no siblings, and like it was like a 2-bedroom RV. I
Mhm.
don't know how these children are handling this.
I have moved into an RV and mm, it's not a lot of space, and it's like this claustrophobia thing.
Well, it's been such a trend in the last several years for people to adopt bus life, van life, be schooly people. There's so much glamorization of it. People are like, "Oh, you're exploring, you're seeing the country. That's amazing." And former missionary kid on deputation for 8 years traveling the country. It's really not that great. Yes, I did get to see basically every dinosaur museum in 40 of the 50 US states, but it does not make up for the fact that my childhood was spent looking out a window as the world went by me. It wasn't that I got to go do super cool things all the time. We'd have maybe one cool trip a year. The the way that they strip these kids of any community, stability, etc., and try to make up for it by taking them to parks, that's just not equivalent.
The thing is, too, with half these people, I don't even feel like they actually go places that are interesting to see. With half of like these people that I've seen, they never show where they're going. It's safe for me to assume, at least, their idea of traveling is going to different Walmart parking lots and staying there for the night.
That is called boondocking, and yes, that is definitely something that they do. They do actually go to various educational or attraction locations around the country. However, it seems to fall on a strict divide of, all right, is there or is there not an entrance fee? Because they have gotten to places which she could have researched online because smartphone, but they get there and they're suddenly like, oh, it costs how much to get in? Never mind, kids, just look from the outside. We'll go to a park. And then they just go to
What?
some random park. They've taken them to carnivals and like not let them ride the rides because it's too expensive,
Oh, that's just mean.
right?
Are you serious?
And she's posting pictures of her kids with geotags, and she's not delaying the upload or anything. So predators can easily track her and her children as they go around the country. It's
Well,
wildly unsafe.
and just in case you couldn't find the bus, then they have the big logo on the side of it. That's their Instagram handle. So much of I don't like it. I don't like it.
We actually initially learned about her because she was the Airbnb baby. Because she's on the road, has had her last couple of deliveries in Airbnbs.
Oh my gosh.
Because, of course, she does home delivery. And since they do not have a home, they rent one. And I'm assuming pay out the wazoo in a cleaning deposit.
Yeah, I would not be very happy if I were the person who was running that Airbnb.
How do you find good prenatal care?
Well, they
I
don't
would
get any.
assume, well, oh God, I didn't even think about that.
I'm even wondering, do they tell the Airbnb owners beforehand that they're going to be giving birth in the house, or do they just not say anything? Because I can't imagine there's a lot of people that would like pay that.
Supposedly, this most recent one was in an Airbnb that a friend owned, and her friend was cool with it. I am not sure about the first Airbnb birth.
Does she have a traveling midwife?
Nope.
I
She does
mean,
it
even like a,
entirely on her own. Just her and her husband.
what do they do with the other kids?
The same thing they do when they're making the baby.
Oh God.
Shove them in another room, tell them to wait.
Yeah. How has CPS not?
Well, you
I
have
don't
to
know.
stay in one state long enough for a CPS claim to be filed.
That is true. Also, where do they? I'm confused. Do they just drive around all the time?
Yes, they will sometimes park for like a week or two, and then they'll be off and onto another place.
Wow, that seems horrible. That seems fun for like maybe a month if you go with some really cool people, but 7 kids are not really cool people.
This is her highlight reel, basically, of doing her home birth. They made their only daughter watch, and that's the look on her face that she chose to put on Instagram as like a, hey, it's so wonderful that we're having our children watch live birth.
With no
My God.
professionals
With
at all.
no professionals at all. Who knows what could happen? Your child might just watch you bleed out on the floor.
And also, I'm sure her child was probably aware of there is some chance that this can go wrong.
Maybe the girl, I think, is only like 9, 10 years old, and she has probably been told by her constantly home birthing mom that God will protect her, nothing bad will ever happen, blah, blah, blah. Because that's what they tell
Well,
other adult women.
but like aside from that, I'm sure even being told like there will be a lot of insert bodily fluid here. I mean, birth is messy.
It
Like
is.
as a, I don't know, as a child, if I saw that much liquid coming out of another person, I would be like, oh my gosh, something is going to happen to them. You're going to die. I don't feel like any amount of God would take that away.
How many teenage girls freak out over their first period because they think they're going to bleed to death?
A lot of them.
So imagine that's with a tiny amount of blood compared to what you're going to see in a live birth.
No, I swear to God, and this woman is going to be one of those people. It's going to be like, why isn't my daughter giving me grandkids? And I wonder why.
Why did my kids give me grandkids and then move them so far away and never let us visit?
I don't understand how these people make birth a spectator sport. Carissa had 12 people that outside of her family that were there for her latest birth. And she's done that for the last, I don't even know how many births. There's so much of this. We need to bring our children into this experience because they need to be prepared for it when they're older. And I'm like, well, couldn't you then wait until they're 15, 16 years old and can actually have informed consent about this?
Exactly.
No, because then they wouldn't be the parent. They wouldn't be making the rules. And also, I find it very offensive that they shame people for letting other people watch what makes a baby, but then
Yeah.
they let everybody look at their hoo-ha when they're pushing one out.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh God.
Oh ew. Oh ew.
They have TikTok after TikTok after TikTok, basically talking about how horny they are and how easy it has been for them to pop out 7 kids in 11 years.
Do they know what birth control is? Has anyone told this woman?
Well, she has baby fever. Oh, apparently that means you need to have a kid at least every other year.
But, like, if you stayed in one place and made friends, your friends would probably have kids, and you could smell the baby's head and then hand it back.
Correct. That's what I do.
Exactly. It's like, "Oh my god, baby's so sweet. Snuggles. Here you go." Hand it
Yes.
right back. They shame people for not having children, and they as people like this in this type of fundy thing, and it's just like, let other people decide what they want to do. You wanna shove an unhappy adult on a bus with 7 children that they don't wanna take care of? Why would you do that?
And it just is so annoying because, of course, they're pro purity culture. So,
course.
any of the young women on TikTok that are doing these trends and whatnot and shaking it in less than modest clothing. And so, of course, they would look down on them for doing that. But because they're marrieds, they can talk about how spicy their intimacy is constantly, even when people are like, good Lord, give it a break. We got Bethany, we got Morgan, we got so many of them that are on this little kick here. And they want to talk about how you're supposed to wait for marriage and stuff, and it's going to be great. But if you're telling someone to abstain from something, why would you then flash it in front of their face every single day?
No, for real. Because these people will get mad over girls wearing shorts above their knee, but then they're just on TikTok being like, hey guys, we have a breeding kink.
Keep our kids in the same bus while we do it. That I will not get past.
The fact that they're literally 5 feet away from their children while they're making more children. I'm sorry, I don't care how much you have soundproofed those doors. Those kids
Which
still
is, like,
know what's going
impossible
on.
for
It
a
is.
pocket door.
I'm telling you, those kids, as someone with experience with those doors, those children can hear everything. And I feel so bad for them.
And also, something that I just thought about, those children have to take a shit in that little tiny bathroom with a door that doesn't close.
Yes, they have to change their clothes in
They
a
have to do
bathroom.
anything.
Of course, there's only one.
I didn't even think about that.
9 people.
What if they have a stomach bug that goes around the van?
That has happened.
Oh my gosh, what did they do?
They did not go into details.
Of course, they didn't rent an Airbnb for that. Come on, people. No,
And having the bathroom be like tiny as hell.
She talks about it being a full-size bathroom. Ma'am, that is a stand-up shower.
Yeah, do these people not know what full-sized means? Because it's
Yes,
not
but
that.
anybody that actually has full-sized anything is just being selfish because they want space.
They want material things, and we're worried about the memories. And yeah, your kids are going to have lots of memories, and I don't think they're ones that you're going to want to talk about because they're going to be the kind that they're discussing in therapy.
I was about to say, they're saving all this. Well, maybe they're not saving money now, but maybe they think they're saving money for their kids' therapy bills. Maybe they're really progressive thinking.
In their origin story, I don't know why I can't find these screenshots, but I can't find them anymore. They actually met in the military. She was in the reserves and he was in the army, I believe. And they were stationed somewhere together and fell in love and decided to leave the military and do gym franchises.
Interesting.
It was really interesting. And of course, even though she was only actually in the military for roughly a year, they play up that they are veterans.
Of course.
Of course they do.
You know how I was telling you that their kids go to bed at the same time? Who wants to guess what their group bedtime is?
I'm gonna go for a solid 8 or 8:30.
I'm gonna hope 8:30. Oh, but this lady looks like a 7:45.
You do have a point.
Unfortunately, you are all wrong. It is 7 p.m.
Okay.
No.
So 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., the kids are in their room. 6 children locked together in a 36 square foot space for 12 hours a day, every day.
God, that's disgusting.
But she has a cute pull-down king-size mattress with all this space so she can have fun with her hot hubby.
Ew. 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 These people disgust me.
She got a lot of pushback about the universal bedtime. This was her response back about the backlash.
I had some pushback on some of my kids about bedtime. They don't want to go to bed, they don't want to come inside. And for one, it kind of feels disrespectful in the sense of that's how I was responded to when I was little. Like, no, you push back on your mom. That's disrespectful. You don't do that. But it's not. I'm thankful that they feel safe enough with me to question. I think that's a blessing. I think that it's also good to remember that I'm still the parent though. And as the mama, I know that going to bed at a really good hour is important. It's important for their physical, for their emotional health, for their mental health. Swift requested us to sing Christmas carols and for me to rub his back. So it was different older ones, not even all my older ones, but certain ones were, Mom, no, please, more time. And I don't want to, the grumpy attitude. And I do want them to respond with, I don't. But that doesn't mean that I should give in or I should get emotionally upset. I was just like, I know you don't want to. I know it's hard to do that because I feel the same way. I struggle at night not grabbing my phone and playing on it, not staying up late and watching a movie. I struggle with prioritizing sleep too, especially since I fed him cookies and we shared chocolate pie today. I gave you extra sugar. The odds are not in your favor right now. You need sleep. Let your body fix what I gave you.
So she hypes them up on sugar. And then rather than helping them expend all that extra energy, they're nice and tired for bedtime, she just puts them in their bedroom and says, may the odds be ever in your favor.
It's not even just with these people, because I feel like it's like a common parenting mess up. I don't understand why they cannot apply how they sleep, what it's like for them to go to sleep, to their own children. They can't comprehend the fact that your kid literally just might not be able to get to bed one night. Or your kid might need to do an activity to wind down before bed, and it might not be the exact time that you want them to. I don't, and she's like self-aware about it here, and she's like, oh yeah, well I get it, but I'm still the parent, so you need to go to bed at 7. What?
And they have talked about at length on many, many, many occasions about how the reason for the 7 p.m. bedtime is because then mom and dad have 2 to 3 hours to hang out with each other alone every single evening. And that's really important to keeping their marriage stable, which by extension is the best thing for the children. Now, I think that there is certainly a call to have a period of just adults wind down time at the end of the night. However, I don't think it should be this strict. And 12-year-olds do not need to go to bed at 7 p.m.
Huh.
No, you need maybe 9 hours of sleep. But we're talking about 10 p.m. would be a perfectly reasonable bedtime for a preteen or teenager.
Do you know how you have wind down time with your partner at night if you don't have kids? And I'm not saying like if you have children, you get no time to yourself, because that's also not true. But if you want that time with your significant other, either don't have that many kids or find a different arrangement that works for everybody. Get a house, get these kids some rooms of their own, and let them have time to entertain themselves. And then they won't have to be shut up in the back of a bus. They can just be in their own rooms, having their own space, and you can still have time with your significant other. Does she need help in this area? Does she need advice?
She needs all the advice. Although I will say, I think from what I've seen, she is the only Instafundy that really uses safe sleep practices. She doesn't usually co-sleep. She'll have the baby in a bassinet on the side so that way she can nurse throughout the night, but the baby is not in the bed with them. That is a win, I suppose. Her
Yeah.
children do not have as many health emergencies like the Collins kids. There are things that she is doing better than other Instafundies, but that's an awfully low bar to pass.
Yeah. I was like, that's still, you're doing the most to not do anything.
We're going to look at a little bit more of the absurd for a bit. First off, of course, she is into bone broth hot chocolate.
I have never heard of that until now, and I don't like it.
It's really
sounds
bad.
horrible.
A whisked egg yolk, a scoop
Oh,
of
God.
collagen, salt, a splash of vanilla, cacao powder, maple syrup for some god-awful reason. Why you can't just use, I don't know, sugar? But
Because that's not obscure enough.
and then of course the raw milk.
Oh my
Can't be
gosh.
pasteurized. It's gotta be raw. And if these people drink raw milk with an uncooked egg in it, and I'm like,
And they only have one bathroom.
yes, exactly. I oh my gosh. I have heard that there is a certain part of the world where, I want to say it was in Turkey, somewhere in Eastern Europe, where they do put egg yolks in their coffee, but they make the coffee hot enough that it cooks the egg yolk. I'm pretty sure Miss Berkey filter over here is not heating it up that much, because that would
Yeah.
defeat the purpose of having raw milk.
Oh.
Hold on a second. Babe, do you want to try chicken bone broth hot chocolate? I want to try to make this now and just see what happens.
There has been a snarker or two who have attempted this mix, and they all substitute pasteurized milk for raw milk. One person said it was not that bad. They expected it to be worse. The other one was like, I guess some people can like this. I do not.
I can't. The thing is, like, I don't do whole milk at all. Me and my partner get 1% because, like, sensory issues. We just deal with it. Like, both of us would probably projectile vomit if we tried this.
A scoop of collagen powder? Like, ma'am, you're not going to get Megan these because you put collagen in your bone broth hot chocolate.
Wait, and who is drinking this? Is this just her? Or is
Oh, no. This is a whole thing. If
Oh
you want to
god.
fall down an Instagram hole for an evening, look up bone broth hot chocolate on Instagram. The
I
most notable eaters of this is the entire Baird family.
Oh
Every
God.
single Baird woman has posted about bone broth hot chocolate. When Susanna and Heidi went to Austria very recently, they actually made a whole Instagram story out of them going on this cute, quirky, funny quest to find raw milk in Austria.
oh my god.
Don't you mean Ostera?
Yes,
Wasn't that how one
Austria.
of them?
That's exactly right. Spell check is not their friend. They ignore him all the time, so he has gotten no contact.
I would just assume that when so many people call you out for your spelling mistakes, that you would get a dictionary or at the very least hack something to check it. I would say somebody else, but they all seem to have really bad grammar,
And I want to be like my brother in Christ. Grammarly is free.
right?
Exactly.
Here is the origin story. This is how they came to be on a bus. Be ready for a journey.
We need to have this conversation. And he's like, I gotta build a boat like Noah. I was like,
Sorry.
he's like, but not a boat. It's gonna be a bus. I need to build a bus like Noah to save our family. And I'm like, hold up, what's happening? And in my mind, I'm thinking, I just said, if this is crazy, I still need to be supportive. I was like, yes, let's do it. JD bought the bus that weekend. We have at this.
Can we talk about split in the moment decisions and like being
Wow.
super impulsive?
This man said he needed to build a bus like Noah. He is
Yes.
having he is
Yes.
having delusions, and she's like, well, just said I was gonna back him today. So this seems very much like that movie Yes Day or whatever with the
Yes.
kids. This is that movie gone wrong.
If I were to pull some shit like this in my life, all the people in my life would be contacting my psych because they're like, oh, she's in a crazy manic delusion.
If you were like, I have to build a boat like Noah, I would damn, sit down.
To be completely fair, I am this chaotic. And I feel like if my life turned out even slightly different, this might be me. And like, that's fine. And my partner is just always like,
They're very yes and.
So at this point in time, we definitely have no bus driver's license that's current. Funny note, had been to, I'm gonna switch you this way so I can plug in. I had actually been to a bus driving school with the Air Force, I don't know, a few years before, because that was before I had children, right? So quite a few years before. So I'd driven a bus, I'd been to class, and
If you look at our most dangerous fundies, Tyson and Ariel were not Christian up until I think 3 or 4 years ago, and then they were at a barbecue where drugs and or alcohol may have been involved, and he suddenly hears the screams of the damned in hell, and he decides from that day forward his family needs to be Christian, they're quiverful submission and headship and all that stuff, right? And his wife dives in. Sure, why not? And then about a year ago, they're on Instagram with their little podcast-ish thing that they sat there with their whole chest and said that a woman cannot say no to sex once she's married. And she needs to figure out how to get on board with that, because anything other than immediate submission to the man's sex drive is kicking back on God.
I love when the men like this say, well, if you love me, you'll have sex with me. That's why I married you. And to that, I say, go marry some other bitch. Leave me alone. What? That's why you
what?
married me? How is that not so incredibly insulting?
that's nasty as hell.
And to just be out, to be just nothing more than your sexual organs.
It's so gross that these women are fighting so hard for the patriarchy that literally sees them as a walking incubator, and that is it. They think that they are going to be given a special place in society by the patriarchy because they stick up for the patriarchy. But what they've missed is millennia of history where women have stuck up for the patriarchy, and then as soon as their husband doesn't like them anymore, they accuse them of being a witch or some other thing. And the patriarchy never sticks up for you, hon.
These are the type of people that once the woman has all the kids, then the husband leaves her and go gets a younger model that hasn't popped out 7 children.
You mean the Cody Brown method?
Exactly.
People love to travel, right? There's an allure to going somewhere on vacation. And so we were just like, man, we are thrilled to get to do this. But this nagging, God told us we're going to save our family. He's going to save our family. What is he saving it from, right? So just praying and thinking, please show us what it is. And we know what it is. So here's the thing. Whenever you read in Deuteronomy 6, and I'm going to read you a small piece of it. In the Bible, it says, it was over there because I was over there first. It says, now this is the commandment. Okay? Deuteronomy 6 starts out. Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the rules. What's a commandment? It describes them. Statutes and rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land to which you're going over to possess, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your sons and your sons' sons. The fear means trust. Okay? So it's fear as in like a reverential.
I remember being taught this, and I absolutely hate it to this day. No, that's not what fear means. And calling anything fearsome as something reverential. No, sometimes you're scared because it's wrong.
Exactly.
It never ceases to amaze me how much people in this religion in particular are just lambasted with like, don't trust your body, don't trust your body's reactions, don't trust your gut, all this kind of stuff. It is gross.
Because it's all your sin nature. So anything that comes naturally to you is evil.
Trusting, following, yes, Lord, fearing, and our sons and our sons' sons. So my sons and their sons' sons, we're going to teach down them this way.
What?
What has she been smoking before she put together that sentence?
Why do these people not edit? You know you can make a second take, right?
She apparently does not. She doesn't have the time or the room in the van for a second take.
No, I thought whatever was gonna come out of her mouth was just gonna be bullshit because it's all like just she wants social media attention
Yeah.
and like aesthetic fan. But no, this is too insane to make up.
Correct.
My husband decided he was gonna build a boat like Noah. I think there might actually be some truth to this origin story because of how unhinged it is.
Exactly. Like, you cannot make this stuff up.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it says, hear therefore Israel, and be careful to do them, that they may go well with you, that you may multiply greatly as the Lord your God of your fathers has promised you. We're multiplying. We're having children.
I would really like to emphasize here that this part of the Bible is not speaking about her. It is specifically speaking about the Jewish lineage.
This woman and well, it came from her husband, thinks that God called them to fuck on a bus.
Pretty much.
I still don't really know what anything she's saying has to do with the bus. I don't know if I'm just
Exactly.
missing something. All I'm hearing is the Bible told me that I should get pregnant as much as possible. So now we're living on a bus.
Right? When you're manic and you're like, man, I could really go for a walk. Why? My shoes are itchy.
Exactly.
Obviously, you know that. I have 7 children. And it doesn't matter if you have 1, you're still multiplying. Okay. That's still having children. Side note. But yeah, so we're having children because your children and your children will have children. And we're going to, it says, and these words I command you shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently. So diligently, you're trying to do this. You're going to
You're effortly. There's so many grammatical errors and like just I understand when you're speaking and the words just don't word right. But again, You can make a second take.
Even if she was just like effortly, that's not a word, haha, and like laughed it off,
But
that
she
would be
didn't even
better than
notice. No, she just keeps going.
she said, "This is why I don't have room for mine." So
And I also love how everyone's just assuming that your children are going to have children.
I don't think most of her children are gonna have children after she's making them watch her give birth. Oh my God.
Right? Well, granted, the boys get spared that because they don't need to know that information. Only the girl does. Because they've got 6 boys, 1 girl.
right,
That
because
would
they
be
don't
too
want to
much.
raise anyone to be good partners.
So they have actually done cringy reels about how they only have 1 daughter and she's going to be protected forever because if anybody messes with her, her brothers are going to get her. And I'm like, hey, that's kind of cute, but a little aggressive. But they've also had a video about her husband having really strong genes and that's why she keeps having boys.
Oh no.
And ma'am, no, sit all the way down.
Oh no. That's all.
I cannot stand the cis white straight man who must be so virulent because he has boys.
Isn't it actually the exact
It
opposite?
is. It matters entirely what genes you get from your mom as to what gender you're going to be.
Again, she did not have room for her school books on the bus. They didn't pack those. God said Noah doesn't need an education.
Noah was going to be going out to a completely decimated world where he and his family were the only ones on it. So communication skills really weren't necessary at the time. Just a dogged determination to have as many kids as possible.
You sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise, you shall bind them on signs of your hands. So when you do things with your hands.
No, ma'am. That is referring to tefillin, which is the little boxes of Torah scrolls that they wrap around their hands and their arms and also across their forehead, because this verse is going to go on to talk about placing it on your forehead as well.
It shall be in the name of the Lord. It shall be for the Lord. It should be a blessing and bring joy and glory, right? You shall have them as frontlets between your eyes. Everything that you think of and you
Again, has nothing to do with what you think and what you see. It is tefillin. This is not some cutesy little Christian thing. No, this is specifically one of the 613 mitzvot for Jewish people.
I mean, listen, I personally don't subscribe to Christianity, but I feel like if God was real, he would have a very big problem with her disrespecting Jewish people like this.
Exactly,
I'm
because
pretty sure that's something he's not a fan of.
according to the UN, one of the definitions of genocide is by erasing a group's history and culture. And Christians love to take Jewish stuff and make it all Christian-y and modern-y and completely divorce it from the actual Jewish tradition that goes with it. And frankly, I see that as a form of attempted and sometimes successful genocide.
Yeah.
I will get downvoted to hell for that, I am sure.
So the church that I grew up in, they were Jewish people were the ones that had crucified Christ. And so they were not God's chosen people anymore. And Christians were actually taking the place of Jewish people. And now looking back on that, how in the world did these people get away with saying this shit?
So I love that
That
you
is
bring that
so
up,
fucked up.
actually. That is what is called blood libel. It is something that has been happening to Jewish people since the 16th century, something like that. It has been frequently said that Jews will use the blood of Christian babies to make their matzah, which is like crackers. How blood goes into that, I don't know. But there's this whole they killed Jesus and so they don't deserve respect or national sovereignty or recognition as a valid religion, etc. That's all the fun blood libel that has been going on for literally centuries. Probably longer, but that's as far back in the history as I am aware of.
It's made me really interested in Jewish history and Jewish culture, and it's something that I've been trying to be more informed about because I've realized how lacking my education was in regards to other cultures. And I'm sure that I have been inadvertently offensive before, and I don't want to be that way. And so I really do try to learn about other things, especially the Leaving Eden podcast. Gavi is Jewish, and so
Mm-hmm.
I always listen to that, and I'm like, let's learn about this little learning corner for a second. But it's so gross. It's so disgusting that they can think that way.
I didn't even, up until I'm gonna say like a year or two ago, I didn't even know how deep anti-Semitism got with Christianity. Because like when I was a kid, my family was very much under the, well, Jewish people are God's chosen people stance. And I did get to learn about some elements of Jewish like culture. It wasn't a lot. And I'm sure there was like a lot of things that were misinterpreted to not be referring to Jewish people in the Bible that I was taught. But I didn't even realize how big of like, a problem it was because I thought all Christians were really friendly towards Jewish people. Like it was until like I met this one friend of mine who's practicing Jewish, who's like
Mm-hmm.
religiously also. She kind of educated me on it because I was really confused. I don't even remember how the topic came up or what the context was, but I actually learned, oh, not all Christians think that way.
Well, from my section of evangelicalism, Jews were seen as a means to an end. Yes, they killed Jesus. However, they have to become a nation in order for Jesus to come back for the second coming. And so Jews were to be venerated because they were God's special people and they were going to create the necessary context for the final battle.
The spicy one from when I was growing up was that when you become a Christian, you basically become Jewish. Even though like we didn't do like Hanukkah or anything, we didn't like actually practice anything. It was just, well, God considers you honorary Jewish if you're a
Oh,
Christian.
good
The right kind
Lord.
of Christian, of course. And
I
thank God
remember
I never took that and ran with it as a kid. I at least
I
had a
remember
social
being
semblance.
so confused because I asked my dad once in the Bible they were talking about Jews and Gentiles. And I was like, "Well, what are we?" And he was like, "We're Gentiles." And I was like, "But the Bible doesn't say good things about Gentiles."
Yep, that is true. The Old Testament is really not for Christians. They love to
No.
co-opt a lot of it, but most of it has absolutely nothing to do with them because I really love, sarcastically, that I have family that want to send me lists of verses explaining why Jesus was actually the Mashiach. And I reply back with links to rabbis explaining how, no, he actually didn't fulfill any of the prophecies, but go off. There is so much misunderstanding because evangelicals think that they understand Jewish culture, Jewish tradition, because they have read the Old Testament. And I'm like, that doesn't even come close. Because unlike Christians, we don't just have the Bible. We have the Tanakh, which is the most of the Old Testament that the Christians use. Obviously doesn't include apocryphal books. So it's got that collection of books. However, the vast majority of our kashrut, the dietary laws and everything, modesty laws, niddah, all that stuff, that is actually determined in the Midrash and the Mishnah, which are two whole other books. Like the Mishnah is probably my favorite book because it is a historical, like, if Jews had chat threads back in the day. The Mishnah is a collection of chat threads where rabbis through the centuries debate what various verses in the Tanakh mean. And so there is this constant questioning and this constant revisiting our core to determine how we're going to live our lives modernly. It's so incredibly limited to look at the Old Testament as, oh, well, if I know that, I understand your culture, because there's so little that is in those books compared to all of the other books that we use to actually guide our practice. It's like looking at how they did C-sections in the 1800s and saying, since I know what C-sections look like in 1800, that's how you're still doing them today, right?
I know how to do that.
There's so much anti-Semitism that is just woven into the framework of evangelicalism. And yet, the vast majority of evangelicals will tell you they are pro-Israel, which I don't even think you could get a majority of Jews to say that they're pro-Israel. Like, Israel, the secular government, is hella problematic. Palestine, in case no one's ever heard of that. Oh. It's just so frustrating to see these insta-fundies think that they are so wise and so astute and like they're getting these secret meanings from the Bible. And I'm like, yo, no, just no.
No, you're just delusional. You're not smart. You're just delusional.
A Jewish practice? No, God told me what this means.
That's the Torah observant Christians, like Carissa and Ariel and Tyson. They will celebrate the biblical feasts. However, the feasts that they celebrate, about 3/4 of them are not actually in the Bible. So I really don't know where they pulled those out of. They have absolutely no bearing in the actual scriptures. But yeah, they're Torah observant of things that are not in the Torah. And it's like, yo, you can't have cheese and meat in a Passover celebration. You just can't. I don't care if it's chicken. You don't have fried chicken and mac and cheese for Passover.
Well, that's more of an Easter Sunday type of thing.
It is, which coincidentally is about the same time of year as Passover. A lot of them will actually not celebrate Easter because it's pagan, but will celebrate this made up version of Passover.
White peopling.
See, it's going to be right here in front of you. It's going to be the Lord's way, right? And you shall write them on doorposts of your house and on your gates, so your home.
Again, this is a Jewish thing. The mezuzah is a tiny little box that you put on the door frame of your front door and every single inner door, except for the bathroom, because that is an unholy place, and you do not put sacred Torah scrolls on an unholy place. So there are blessed pieces of the Torah inside of these mezuzahs. The mezuzah itself, not sacred. You can get all sorts of really cute ones off of Etsy and other Judaica stores. Inside, the scroll, though, is highly, highly sacred. It needs to be properly blessed and disposed of if it's damaged. Again, this whole, it goes on your door. No.
It's Deuteronomy 6. It is, and to share that with others, it is, we kind of look at it like a pyramid. So the Lord is at the top, and JD and I are generationally, we termed it from some other pastors that we love, generational discipleship. So
if you can't win people to your side, just make them.
No, again, what does this have to do with the bus?
None of this has to do with the bus at all.
Because Jesus said, fuck on bus. That's why they do it.
We talk about fundamental gymnastics, and that is just no truer picture of the level of mental gymnastics that people do.
I'm fascinated by these people. I don't think I've been this captivated by a fundy until now. This is unhinged.
Oh, just wait, there's more.
it is this idea that God is here and he is going, and we are through diligently teaching our children, discipling and building up this for with our kids. It's kind of like this. I have 7 kids. Just say my kids each have 5 kids.
That is the big goal.
My children are little extensions of me.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, of course they're going to want 5 kids, and that's going to be on the low end. They'll probably have 6 or 7. I can already
Listen,
hear it.
are your kids probably gonna end up with breeding kinks as a response to the trauma of this? Probably, but are they actually gonna have children? Probably not. Not as many as you think, at least.
My daughter, they'll be so sick of raising their brothers and, well, their brothers, that they're not going to want to have kids.
By the time I got out of college, I wanted nothing to do with kids. When I was about 8 years old is when I started babysitting for family and extended family. By the time I was 12, I had a job as a nanny. In college, I got a free season pass to the Monarch Ski Resort because I worked 1 day a month at their children's center. By the time I got done with all of that raising kids, I was like, yeah, no, that is not what I want for my life, at least not anytime before 30. And by the time I got to 30, I was like, 20-year-old me, good choice. We still don't want kids.
I was like, yep, I can make that decision for the next decade. Still good with it.
Exactly.
Or they average 5 kids each, and they train their children up for the Lord.
According to statistics, that is likely to not be the case. Gen Z is moving away from the church at a faster rate than any generation before them.
I don't blame them. They see what it does.
Yeah, they're the ones that are finally breaking these generational curses that Gen X and millennials were too traumatized and didn't have access to good health care or mental health supports to be able to deal with.
They're advocating for building armies for one delusional man who wanted to role play as Noah.
She's basically creating her own pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
I guess she's expecting gifts every year, and so the more kids and grandkids and great-grandkids she gets, the more presents she gets every year, and maybe she wants to have it out with Heidi Baird as to who can have the bigger gift pile.
Oh my gosh.
I wish I had this level of delusional confidence just about my ability to function and to get through day-to-day life.
I mean, they do say ignorance is bliss.
They have the audacity, just the pure delusional confidence and audacity, and it's like I really would be less concerned if their thought process and their morals and ethics were not being used to criminalize people in my community. I would be less concerned because, yeah, lady, you want to be crazy on a bus, raise your kids. Your kids aren't going to talk to you 15 years from now, but whatever, have fun. But because this type of thinking is what is governing our country, I would really like a little bit more mental stability in my political leadership. Just saying.
People laugh at Bernie, but I feel like he would be better than this level of delusion in the government.
Bernie's still an old white guy. Oh, you know, what we've been voting into power for centuries. But at the same time, he's at least an old white guy who has spent his entire life fighting for civil rights, equity, etc. And he's got the chops. So let's just let him make decisions for a couple of years, and we can work on finding someone younger to be his replacement after the first term, but let's at least get the ball rolling.
Exactly. Except for these people who want to ban every part of bodily autonomy that they can.
Yep.
And say their 5 kids to have 5 kids. Do you see how this is generationally multiplying? By me.
Yes, we understand math.
And JD being diligently teaching at us.
Diligently teaching at us.
A lot of good teaching.
That's great teaching.
Making this part of our family. That's really what God was doing, and what he was showing us was, hey, we're going to make this whole, basically it's like idea. Everyone's like, man, I want God to use me. I want him to send me somewhere like this faraway country that's a really cool, far distant land to save people and tell them about Jesus. You guys, you have these really cute little sinners right in your
Stop calling babies sinners.
Is she okay? No, CPS now, they won't do anything because child abuse laws are shit in this country. But where is CPS? That is a baby.
This is the Michael Pearl and James Dobson mindset that has been around since the 70s. It is all about children misbehave, have attitude problems, don't want to go to bed at night, etc., because they're little sinners, not because they don't have any emotional regulation tools, etc. They can't communicate very well, so they cry because that's the only way they know how to communicate. This is not a moral failing on anyone's part other than yours, because you're not teaching your children coping skills outside of pray about it.
Well, and it very much screams like I'm a control freak. Why go witness to other capable of giving consent adults when I can just pop out all these children and raise them in this scary religion and then have little soldiers for God, and I'm just going to beat the crap out of them anytime they do something that I don't think they should do, starting out early with the blankets.
Yeah, not only that, but isolate them from literally anyone else. It's just their
Exactly.
only communication has to be theirs.
And
Like,
don't give them a chance to talk to any friends and
Nope.
disclose any abuse, which I'm not saying that she abuses her kids,
Yeah.
but
Just
this is
saying that
gross.
those who do abuse their children very frequently use the technique of isolation in order to perpetrate abuse and make it sustainable.
and they're adorable and they come out so sweet, right?
Yes, they're sweet because they're babies. They're not sinners. They're sweet.
But they are still little sinners, and so we want to be obedient to the Lord and do what he has called us to do and train them up. And so that's really what our
Ew. Train up a child in the way he
I was
should
about to
go,
say,
and when he
to
is
train up a
old, he will not
child.
depart from it. But all the deconstructioners would say otherwise.
They're like, you cannot, what is it called when you fall in love with your captor?
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome.
You can't Stockholm syndrome me my whole life, lady.
What happened to the Noah Bus arc? We're on some, you can't do this in a house.
Exactly. The only thing they can achieve in a house is this level of isolation.
Yeah, and uprooting their kids and just keeping them off balance. This whole thing just seems like a wonderful captive situation of we're just going to keep these kids on the move and they'll never get to have any friends or go to public school where people will notice if they feel off and maybe ask questions. Like, this makes me angry.
No, like if I ever am able to impact anything, criminalizing this kind of behavior is like what I want it to be. It's like there's this type of stuff isn't illegal at all, and it's really disturbing. CPS probably wouldn't even investigate these people. And that's what's frightening.
Carissa still has her kids, even though one of her youngest has been in the NICU, well, not NICU, PICU, because it's pediatric, twice in the course of 1 year because of sepsis. And she still gets to keep her kid. There's no way CPS is doing anything about Mother Bus.
And I'm sure they don't stay in one place long enough for there to be consistent reports.
Yep.
Of anything going on.
With the way the law works, from like what I understand, as long as you aren't chaining up your children, then it's fine. I know sometimes they do get upset about children being locked in rooms, literally locked, not like if you leave, it's going to be a huge deal. It's like
right, you're going to receive punishment. No, it's literally they cannot open the door.
But like aside from that, that's perfectly fine. And I really don't understand why nothing's been done about that yet.
I will tell you why. Because there has been a systemic defunding of any kind of social and family programs because they are taking away the autonomy of the parent and the ability of the parent to determine everything for the child. So they have been systematically defunding, like the GOP has been doing towards public schools, towards maternity care, care for the disabled. They've been cutting funds to all of these programs. At this point, the DSS or CPS or DHS, whatever it's called in your state, is horribly, deplorably underfunded. There is no way to give any of these the proper investigation and support and anything because we are so horribly underfunded and understaffed. And there are laws on the books in various states. Your results may vary, but there are laws on the books against a lot of this stuff. And the problem is enforcement costs money, and it's just not something that our society has chosen to value since, say, 1965. One of the biggest reasons that we have not seen advancements in the protection of children in America is we are one of the last holdouts to ratify the UN rights of the child. And the opposition to ratifying the rights of the child is almost singularly opposed by the religious right. Like everybody else is like, yeah, absolutely, ratify this. That vocal minority that we have from the Christian GOP ensures that we'll never ratify the rights of the child because it would actually make them something other than the property of their parent.
Exactly.
Land of the free, home of the brave.
Yup.
You know.
Well, that's where I got my t-shirt slogan. So, home of the brave, yearning to be free. We're about to get into some weird stuff. Oh, remember how I said they would take their kids to places but not let them play? Yeah, they went to see Navy Pier but didn't ride anything. So instead, they strolled the area because I'm sure that's exactly what kids age 2 to 12 want to do when there's a Ferris wheel.
Oh, of course.
It's
I'm
like
sure
taking a kid to an ice cream parlor and being like, nope, can't have any. We just wanted you to see it.
I didn't even think about that. They were like eating fruit snack gummies that like the mom brought from the bus. Knowing how those parents work, I'm telling you right now, it's the mom, the dad, and the baby are just kind of doing their own thing, and that 12-year-old is watching all of the younger siblings and has to just walk them around.
Now, here was the crossover that nobody wanted. She actually reposted the transformed wife. Everybody's favorite, Lori Alexander. Our culture has convinced women that serving their boss is good, but serving their husband makes them a slave. Maybe because if you serve your boss, you're only serving them 40 hours a week, and you get to make boundaries like, no, you can't touch me. No, you can't make jokes about me. No, I'm not going to have sex with you. I am only going to do the position that you hired me for. And if you want more than that, you need to pay me more. You get to have boundaries in that relationship. You're not serving a boss. You are performing a job function and receiving payment in kind. On the other hand, serving your husband requires 24/7 serving them, and it's going to mean serving them with your body as well as any other functions you may perform.
It's almost like one should be like a mutually beneficial relationship that's more emotion based than whatever the hell she's talking about. And the other is you providing a service and getting paid for it.
But that's not the same, or that's the same thing to the transformed wife.
It is. And so she did a whole slide set of these. She's recently started questioning leadership and submission. Gee, that does not surprise me one bit, considering he's gotten you on this isolation tour for the last few years. So of course you're going to question what your role is. You're a broodmare, and I would begin to question my life choices at that point too. And she has all these pictures of her and her hubby together, and
probably taken by their son.
Genuinely, joyfully asked your husband, what can I help you with? Actually, people in a healthy relationship ask each other that all the time, just as a matter of caring. Has nothing to do with submission or serving. It's literally just, I give a shit about you. I'd like to know how you're doing.
Man, think about big penis. So man had Lott on mind.
Like this whole lead, protect, provide thing. Why would I not want to help him? Why would I not want to support that plan? Maybe anytime you disagree and you guys need to have a healthy discussion about whether or not you're going to take course A, B, or C. Again, healthy communication, respecting each other. That generally is how things work in healthy relationships. But no, it's because she's got submission and he's a headship. According to the Bible, we are both made in God's image, both complementary companions, helper as the ideal person for my husband. And they quote the Bible verse Genesis 1:27. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. This is actually one of my favorite verses. Do you want to know why? In the original Hebrew, it uses a poetic device that means from A to B, not strictly A and B. So this verse indicates that there is a spectrum of gender.
Oh, I love that. I had no idea.
That's a nice little Easter egg.
Right? Again, learning Jewish stuff is incredibly enlightening. I highly recommend it. I will actually put my favorite Jewish learning links in the description on this video because there's really good info out there, but I understand it can be hard to try and find it, parse it out from the messianic stuff, and yeah, have a general understanding that is, better than what our evangelical upbringing gave us. But like, I just love how they're like, yes, it's complementarianism because there's A and B. And it's like, ma'am, that's not actually what the verse says. It says there's a spectrum here. So you and your husband could fall anywhere on that spectrum. You are not, by gender, is general laws about menstruation and whether or not you can be used to create a minion. Because you must have, again, my numbers are failing me, it's either 8 or 10 men in order to have the proper, council of believers to, I'm pretty sure it's in order to open the Torah, you have to have that set group. And unfortunately, in most streams of Judaism, women do not count for a minion. So there is definitely some gender messed upness in Judaism. It is not perfect like any other religion, but there are, for the most part, very few things that are limited based on your gender. And it really irritates me when these insta-fundies that have 5 minutes of knowledge about the Bible think that they can extrapolate this stuff out from a book that is not originally from their language and they have not studied the original texts.
All of these slides feel like they were just ripped out from straight ABO fan fiction. But I keep getting ads on YouTube for this audiobook app that only has ABO straight fiction on there.
Oh my gosh, yes, I used to get those ads too. I have no idea what I did to change my algorithm, but I'm grateful for it because those were a little disturbing. Some not okayness there. This is all about the Great Replacement Theory.
Oh no.
Elon Musk is talking about how we are on the brink of collapse because we do not have a sufficient fertility rate in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Now, one should note that our current fertility rate is 1.9%, and an exact replacement rate would be 2.1. So we're really, really freaking close. It's not that far off. And what they're upset about, though, is that we, as America, a land of immigrants, incorporates immigration into expected fertility rates. And so they get all mad. They're like, yeah, do you know what brings us to 2.1? Immigration. And I'm like, well, yeah, because that's kind of how we started this country. So, yes,
Exactly.
we've been doing this for about 250 years now. You want to jump on board? But, like, he goes on about how there's going to be this population collapse and everything, which is pure bullshit, like everything else that comes out of this man's mouth. And it's another form of anti-Semitism that is in evangelicalism, because the Great Replacement theory originally came from being replaced by Jews. That is where you get the Charlottesville chant, "Jews will not replace us."
Yeah.
That's a age-old trope. It has been around forever, and conservative evangelicalism has drunk the Kool-Aid. They love it
Oh
because
god.
they've been here longer, so they get to dictate who else can come here.
Oh, there was this guy that I used to be friends with, and I don't know what exactly like radicalized him. The dude was like really normal. When I was friends with him, I quit talking to him for like a year, and I don't remember what the reason was. But I remember when I started talking to him again, he had like a complete psychotic breakdown over like the Great Replacement bullshit. I remember he like suddenly became Mormon. He really didn't like Jewish people. Yeah, I can't hear the Great Replacement without thinking of like his mental breakdown, because that was one of the weirdest things I had ever like witnessed from just not talking to somebody for a while.
I would be very happy if this kind of ideology was reserved strictly for nervous breakdowns and disassociations from reality. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are voting, that are writing laws, etc., that believe it. Oh, moving to homeschooling. Road schooling. All 6 of her kids, since the baby isn't in school yet. And so you have 2 through 12, all different developmental stages. And they do one of those group curriculums, like the gather round homeschool. There's one thing, everybody gets the same lesson. And then the younger kids do easier activities and the older kids do harder activities to build on top of the lesson that everybody had. However, that means that certain topics that are not suitable for kindergartners never get covered for the kids in junior high and high school. That also means that the majority of your learning is coming from a set of worksheets that you do, and not from actual taught instruction, which the Gather Round tries to make it sound like there is a lot more direct instruction in order to facilitate across, but it doesn't. And like she says here, they don't take tests, they don't do arts and crafts, and you do kind of need to know if they're retaining the information. And as problematic as standardized testing can be, they have alternatives now. Like there is educational evaluations that you can have done by a licensed educational professional to tell you if your kid is keeping up with what they need to know, if they have any possible learning difficulties, disabilities. They go over that for you. But when you have 7 kids, that's really freaking expensive. You're just not going to do it, and you're going to have blinders on until the kid applies to a college or tries to get a job, and suddenly they don't know how to do the most basic stuff that is required of someone at a job or to pass the ACT or SAT. You're going to have to pass a test at some point. Like when I wanted to be a insurance agent, had to pass licensing. When I wanted to build voice over IP servers, I had to get certified. When I wanted to do upper level tech support, I had to get CompTIA certification. You have to take tests as an adult, so you need to learn how to do it as a kid. Because with everything else, whatever you don't practice as a kid and you have to suddenly crash course yourself on in your early 20s, it's not pretty. It's really not pretty. And you are setting yourselves up for failure. It's just...
Yeah, but see, the kids won't be talking to them when they get to that point,
So
so
it doesn't matter.
they
That's
don't
true.
have to deal with it.
Someone that I used to know. Well, now she's an RV mom, and the kids are now in or just finished fourth and sixth grade. And she was saying that they really wanted to finish the year and get started with their summer. They crammed 3 weeks worth of curriculum into 3 days. And I'm like, you do realize they're not going to retain any of that you crammed in 3 days. Know how I know? When I was in third grade, we were in Iowa. And in Iowa in 1988, if you were homeschooled, you had to meet with a liaison from the public school who would give you a weekly test to make sure that you were keeping up with the kids in public school. Well, since our curriculum, their curriculum, Joe Schmo's curriculum, they're all assembled a little bit differently. So the topics would all be covered by both curriculum, just not in the same order. So I would have crash course days on either Wednesdays or Thursdays, because then on Friday, the lady from the public school would come and test me. And so I needed to be able to pass those tests in order for us to keep homeschooling. Enter my lifelong test anxiety. I struggled for the first time ever in school during that semester because I was being placed under so much pressure to make sure that I made my parents look good on those tests. It wasn't about whether I knew the information or not. It was, my parents will be really upset if they aren't able to homeschool me and I have to go to public school. And it makes me very angry looking back, because I should not have had that level of responsibility put on me, even implied on me. But it is what it is. And I am grateful that as an adult I have been able to find ways to work with my test anxiety, to help myself to relax and focus while I'm taking tests. And I've definitely gotten much, much better. But it has been a huge concerted effort on my part to overcome the test anxiety that I got from years of homeschooling and needing to make sure I made my parents look good.
And
sorry.
I'm sure a lot of these kids will have similar issues to that, because it's just there's no way to get all that information into a child that's not going to be really just not great for their education.
What I'm concerned about is the one is 12. He absolutely is not at a middle school level if he's doing group activity.
Correct.
There's no way. At what point is she gonna start letting them do high school work? And like, how lost are they gonna be? Like, I don't know, because you would think once a kid at least hits middle school, you would like give them something separate. There is still like a big difference between what a 4-year-old will be learning and what an 8-year-old will be learning. But you'd think at middle school, that's the point where you're like, "Okay, we really should switch you to something else and have you do something like that's actually for your age level." And I'm not even talking about serious subjects like history or like sex, math and like reading that's actually at middle school level. You'd think that they would maybe try to get him like a little bit caught up, but no, we aren't going to do that.
Oh, of course not, because that would take entirely too much money. It's disgusting the way that homeschooling has been used to deprive children of enough education in order to have a life for themselves outside of their family of origin. In summation, they needed to be Noah, and somehow that meant getting on a bus because of Jewish mitzvot that has nothing to do with a bus. They then proceeded to have a couple of Airbnb babies. They have monetized their children and their family constantly. They have gone as far as to literally put out a cash app and tell people where they're going to be parking if they want to come and see them and bring them money. They do an egregiously bad job at homeschooling. They give their children no privacy. They have a really weird combination of modesty and horniness that really I only ever see from Bethany Beal outside of this. And they are determined to make good little Christians instead of actually having any apologetics background to be able to get people with actual autonomy and agency to agree with them.